The old Blackwood Manor stood at the end of a forgotten road, cloaked in shadows that seemed to shift like living creatures. Its rotting wood groaned as though the house itself was breathing, exhaling ancient, sinister secrets. Dark legends spoke of a malevolent demon named Azruel, a fallen entity bound to the manor for centuries, cursed to feed on the purest souls to fuel its dark power. It was said that Azrael's can take many forms, and his rage would only be quenched when it possessed the soul of an innocent. When the Anderson family moved into Blackwood Manor, they were blissfully unaware of the horror that awaited them. Laura, their 16-year-old daughter, felt an instant pull toward the house, her bright eyes often staring into the dim corners, as if seeing things her parents couldn't. The nightmare began. Laura woke in the middle of the night to the creak of her closet door slowly swinging open. In the suffocating darkness, she could barely make out the figure standing inside, a gaunt, shadowy silhouette with hollow eyes that glowed like burning coals. It whispered her name, the sound of its voice like nails dragging across her soul. The following days were worse. She awoke in the morning to find scary handprints pressed against her window from the inside. At night, her bed shook violently at odd hours, as if an invisible force was trying to rip it from the floor. Shadows darker than the night itself would crawl across her walls, writhing like serpents, reaching for her with long, skeletal fingers. Sometimes she would hear soft giggles behind her, only to turn and find there is nobody behind her.
Yes, Laura, cry for no reason. She's hysterical.
Her parents dismissed her terrified cries as nightmares, but deep down, Laura knew the truth. Hiding in the attic, Azruel had begun its hunt. Soon, Laura's behavior changed. Her once innocent laughter became hollow and unnatural, echoing through the hallways in the dead of night. She was often found speaking to herself in guttural tones that did not belong to a young woman. Scratch marks appeared on her arms. One evening, Emily discovered Laura standing in front of a mirror, her lips moving as though speaking to someone. Emily stepped closer and froze in horror. Laura's reflection was smiling back at her, but the real Laura was not. As Azruel's grip tightened, Laura began waking in places she didn't remember going to, most often the attic, a place she had been terrified of before. There, the air was thick with the stench of decay, and the walls were lined with ancient blood-stained symbols. Laura would find herself surrounded by these symbols, etched in ancient blood. Though their meaning eluded her, Azruel knew all too well. The demon wasn't just tormenting her anymore, it was preparing to possess her. Laura's drawings, once innocent pictures of flowers and family, became disturbing visions of demonic faces, eyes weeping blood, and the house engulfed in flames. Each picture seemed to pulse with a dark energy, a glimpse into the nightmare that was consuming her mind. In one of her darkest moments, Laura awoke to whispers, Azrael's voice promising her eternal power if she would surrender. The walls began to bleed, thick red streaks running down to the floor, while the temperature in the room dropped to freezing, her breath fogging the air. A pair of long, clawed hands wrapped around her feet, yanking her under the bed. She screamed and kicked, only to find herself face to face with Azrael, its rotting face split by a wicked grin, its blackened teeth sharp as razors. Desperate for answers, Laura's mother, Emily, uncovered the house's history in an old book in the attic. Reading the book, she learned that each young woman who had lived there met an unspeakable fate. Drowned in bathtubs, found hanging from the attic rafters, or suffocated in their sleep with their eyes wide open, frozen in terror. She contacted Father Matthews, a priest seasoned in battling demons. But the moment he stepped into Blackwood Manor, the house's atmosphere shifted. The walls moaned and the lights flickered as unseen forces howled through the hallways. Something ancient and hungry had awoken, and it would not let go easily. The climactic battle unfolded in Laura's room. As Father Matthews began to pray, the room exploded into chaos. The walls cracked, oozing a thick black tar that reeked of sulfur. The temperature plunged further until Laura's breath crystallized in the air. Azrael appeared, a towering figure of pure darkness, its face an ever-shifting mask of horror, its voice a chorus of damned souls screaming in unison. Laura stood at the room's center, levitating above her bed. Her eyes glowed with the same fiery light as Azrael's, her lips curled into a smile that wasn't hers. She laughed, a deep, monstrous laugh that echoed with madness. The demon was inside her now, tearing her apart from the inside. The walls began to close in, the air thickening with the stench of burning flesh as the room burst into flames. Laura's body convulsed violently, her bones cracking, skin stretching unnaturally. Azrael's monstrous form grew larger, its claws extending as it tried to claim Laura's soul. With desperate fury, Father Matthews hurled holy water at the demon. The room shook as Azrael screamed, a sound so piercing that it rattled the bones of anyone who heard it. The demon lunged at the priest, but he stood firm, plunging the crucifix into the heart of the darkness. Azrael's form exploded in a shower of shadow and flame, its dying scream echoing through the house as the flames were sucked back into the void. Laura collapsed, her eyes returning to normal, but her face twisted with pain and exhaustion. Though the demon was banished, its parting words whispered through her lips in a voice not her own.
I will never truly live.
The Andersons fled Blackwood Manor the next day, but Laura would never be the same. At night, as she lay in bed, she could still hear the faint whisper of Azrael's voice in the darkness, calling her name, promising that one day it would return.